When it's really good, it's like the first time all over again. The performing arts are crazy like that. Whether it's your first time or you just wanted to feel that way, mkearts.com can take you there. The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to experience a night to remember.
Blog Talk Radio.
Well, good afternoon, folks. From what I hear via the grapevine, apparently I've been missed on radio. So here I am, and not only am I here, I'm doing a double-decker show today, which is even more exciting. So I wanted to come on here and say a couple quick things before we go ahead and connect both of our guests. First of all, I just wanted to say and extend out a very big thank you to so many people who have been so gracious and kind lately in the regard of reaching out to me. Know that your thoughts are appreciated, obviously, to those that didn't hear. When I got back from my trip in New York City, sadly I lost a loved one who was being put to rest later today. So it's been a rough couple of weeks. So I appreciate the support. I appreciate the notes, the pictures, the text messages. Yes, I realize I'm very quiet and absent off of social media, and that's a large reason for it. I want to remind everybody, obviously, we're in the final stages of my film festival this year. It's taking place August 16th through the 19th in New York City. Obviously, I will be posting up, all the corrections are made on the website, so you're able to see all the various films that are going to be screening along with the special events and the panels, so go ahead and check that out. This year, we are making sure that everybody buys their tickets online ahead of time, only because I'm a little short-staffed this year, sadly. So I need to make sure that I have enough of me to go around for Q&A panels and for screenings and you name it. So please make it a point to get registered, get your tickets as early as you can. Please come and support them. We have a total of 40 films this year between our premieres and our special screenings. I'm so proud of the work that all these people have done. We have accepted, I want to say, 8 or 9 screenplays this year out of 20 or 25. So I'm super excited to be exposing the world to international talent as well as the domestic state. So it's awesome. So please go ahead and check that out. Obviously, to those of you that are looking for a quick update relative to my films, at this point in time, we're going to be starting to shoot 100 Looks of Love, which is my secondary project starting first. And it looks like the end of August or beginning of September, and that will wrap up, and that will be my one film this year, and we're pushing back Love's Two-Way Mirror to next year. Just so you guys know, still casting a few people in that, so if you're in the Wisconsin area, or if you're in New York City or in LA, please get a hold of me and let me know that you want to work with me. I'd greatly appreciate it. The last thing is, of course, that I'm actually at home in Wisconsin this weekend and here, so if anybody is looking to see me finally, yes, that's right, you can email me or send me a message. I'm actually home for the weekend. So please feel free to do so. And the last thing before we begin is, just so you guys know, I'm going to be back on air next week. We're doing shows the following dates this month, the 11th and the 12th, as well as the 16th and the 17th, the 25th and the 26th, and then, of course, one final show, I believe, on the 31st of July. Obviously, August, with the exception of 2 shows, I'm taking off for the whole month. Why? Because, number one, my film festival, and more importantly, I'd like to take a vacation with my children like a real person. So now that I've covered all the bases since I've been off air for such a long time, let's get going with our wonderful interview with Jonathan. Jonathan?
Yes, hello?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now. Hi. Thank you so much for being so patient while I went through all of those announcements. Had a bunch of different things to cover because I've been out of town and busy, and it's been very hectic these last few weeks. So I appreciate your patience. And welcome to the show, by the way. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, of course, absolutely. I have a dozen questions for you because, of course, I myself am both a fellow author, but more importantly, you have skills that I don't. So I kind of want to tweak and talk a bit about some of the different things that you've done with your life, give our listening audience some semblance of an idea of who you are and what you do, if you don't mind. The first thing that struck out about you, or stood out to me, I should say, is the fact that you have 10 siblings. And after my jaw dropped, I said to myself, I need to seriously ask him, what's life like in a household with 10 siblings? Oh, my God.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely, it's complicated. But no,
I imagine so, my God. All those different.
Yeah.
That's all those different personalities and all those different, oh, my God. How did you manage that?
Well, it was tough. We grew up. A lot of times we didn't have beds. We slept on the floor, shared rooms. Being 3-bedroom house or something like that. All the boys would be in one room, the girls would be in another room. And that I'm not gonna lie, I used to get a little embarrassed sometimes. We went out as a whole family because we were so big. But after time, I got used to it. And we all actually were really close to growing up.
Ah, really? Okay, I've gotcha. And are all of your siblings along the creative lines like yourself? Because I know obviously you're both a musician as well as a creative as it relates to writing. Do some of your siblings share that same passion or purpose in their lives?
They all took different paths. My brother Stephen was in the military. My sister Athena went in the military. My brother Ben's a police officer. My brother Manuel's a pastor. We're forgetting other names now.
I imagine so. That's a lot. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I get you.
But they all took different paths. So
I get you. Understood. Got it.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that you were all raised Baptist. Of course, you were in a Baptist household, of course, and I understand the backstory with your dad, of course, being a preacher. And so I wanted to ask about this. I know that it's been said that you fight for others who can't fight for themselves at times, meaning earlier on in your life. So was that part and parcel of what your dad had taught you as a youngster? Where did you get this initial willingness to do good always and right by people?
Well, my dad didn't actually. He taught us, to fend for ourselves and for our brothers. But as far as others, I think it's something personal. I've always had an issue with people that like to bully others. I don't like that. And people never been able to bully me too much because I could fight. But I just never liked that. Watching people get bullied, I never liked that.
Sure. And it's difficult because of the fact there's so many that exist out there, and it's like you're kind of fighting the entire world when you think about it, really, I mean, realistically. And did you find early on that you started making a difference in the lives of others, which has eventually precipitated you to move on in your journey in terms of establishing companies and businesses that assist other people?
To be honest, I was just trying to survive. Helping others, came along with it. It was something I loved doing, but I was just trying to survive. My life has been terrible. I've been trying to come up since I was a little kid. We grew up poor, so I was just trying to make a living.
I understand completely, definitely. Now, one of the things that I noticed about you is that you obviously have multiple skills, meaning you play both the drums and the piano. So talk to me a little bit about, do you have a preference in one versus the other in terms of actually playing or which you feel you're better versed at? And with all the stuff relative to the book publishing, do you even have time to devote to playing anymore?
Yeah, I still got time to play. I play for my dad's church every Sunday. And I have fun doing it. As far as preference, I like them both about equally. But I would love to learn to play the saxophone. Yeah.
I gotcha. Okay, gotcha. I was, in fact, researching you the other day, and I noticed, for some strange reason, even when I Googled you, so I wanted to ask about that because I know that you've created just numerous different things, meaning not only just Christian music, but romantic music and other things. If people wanted to listen to, because I wish I had a clip that I could play of your recorded music, do you have original compositions that you've done, or if people want to hear examples of the work you've done musically, is there a place to find that?
Yeah, I'm sure they're still up. I haven't checked them in a long time, but I had stuff on Spotify and on iTunes. A love song called Valentine. Another song called Roxanne. Getting to Roxanne. Lightning Storms and Loving Miss Turner. I recorded those and it came out decent, but not to the quality that I would like. So I'm actually in the process of re-recording them.
Gotcha. Okay, I see what you mean. I got it. And any thoughts on when you'd like to have that done and completed? Because I gave you a lot of credit for trying to manage the book thing and then doing this good stuff. And will you be actually doing accompanying gigs? Meaning, will people at some point be able to go out and see you in the general public, literally playing out for people?
That's what I'm working on right now. I've actually gone out and been doing book signings for the last couple of Saturdays. I did Stockton last Saturday, Stockton, California. I got my desk for California this Saturday, and then I'm supposed to go to Las Vegas on the 14th, but my job found out what was going on, and my job actually cut my hours. So yeah, and they're actually threatening to fire me if I don't if I continue.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Really? Oh my gosh, that sounds like discrimination, like a cut and dry sort of discrimination thing. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Maybe it's just me, but I'm like, that's absolutely absurd. My God, that's crazy.
Yeah. They want me just there, but so yeah.
Well, and you have a right to do other things, and you have a right to explore the things that are, as we call, soul-searching in terms of good for the heart, clearly. So, that's just so disappointing to hear. My gosh. But it would be nice to be able to hear the music only because of the point that, you have some beautiful creations, I'm guessing, that people would love to hear. And I think music is a very empowering tool for many people. So it's great to hear that you're actually doing something on that, and we look forward to that part. I understand that you've had a very healthy interest early on with Harry Potter, so you need to explain that to me, because every time I try to watch Harry Potter, I get bored and I think it's ridiculous, and I'm like, why do people like this stuff? Do you know what I mean? I guess I'm looking for, why the fascination? Why is it so fascinating to you, for instance? That whole series, that whole entity.
Well, I gotta explain what got me into it first. When the books first came into our house, I did not want to read them. I was trying to be a thug back then, trying to be a troublemaker, and so book reading wasn't my thing at that time, my mom, my sisters brought the books in the house, and I wouldn't read them, and then I got locked up in juvenile, and then while I was in there, all of the books were taken, and then so that was the only 2 books left were the Harry Potter books. And so I took number 2 first. Yeah.
Okay.
So I took number 2 first. I read Chamber of Secrets, and then I liked it a lot. So I went to see what other Harry Potter books there was, and number 1 was The Philosopher's Stone. And so So I read The Philosopher's Stone next, and then I just decided, you know something, I want to be a writer.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story. That is really cool.
Yeah, I asked the correction officer for pen and paper. He gave me a pencil, not a pen, but he gave me a pencil and 15 sheets of paper, and I started writing.
Look at that. My gosh. Now, Harry Potter in and of itself, folks, obviously everybody under the sun has read this before, but I'm curious to see was there a particular character, a particular scenario, or something in there that you related to that caused this big surge, meaning besides the obvious, clearly you only had that content to read, and I understand that, but is there someone or something about Harry Potter that's special to you or that you can relate to?
Well, yeah, Harry Potter himself, he's an outcast. He comes into the world, and great things are expected of him ahead of time. Like a lot of my family has big names doing stuff, and so great things were expected of him, and and it's hard, he's not meeting expectations, he's everyone's just expecting to be so great, and he's doing the best he can, and I feel like it's kind of personal to me because I'm doing the best that I can.
Of course, we all are. I think we're all kind of trying to just do our best and make our way through things. Obviously, that goes without saying.
Oh yeah.
Now, before you, I have tried to do my research, but I couldn't find anything to solidify to tell me because I've seen pictures of you before, and I'm like, okay, as far as I can tell, I don't know if he's not married or is married, and people watch, the posts that come out, and they see people coming on my show. So of course, we always have to ask the question: do you have a person at home that inspires you or motivates you, or someone in your personal life that, on a romantic level, that inspires some of that romantic music that you put together?
Well, I'm divorced, but there was a person that I was writing all those songs for, but she ended up getting married last year, so
Oh goodness!
Somebody else. Yeah.
Oh no! See, that's such a shame. See, I thought you were going to say, "Oh yes, I met the most beautiful wife, had kids, everything is great, da 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 da, and lovely."
Yeah, see, I
was hoping.
I wish it was like that, but it wasn't. Me and the one the girl that I wrote all the songs for, and even some of the books for, I've been after her since the 6th grade, and just everything didn't work out. I in the 6th grade, when the day I was going to ask her out, my parents got divorced, so I ended up not asking her out there. I asked for her number. She gave me her number, and I didn't get a chance to call her. I got shipped to California to my grandma's house, and I was in Alaska at the time, so I got shipped to California away. So when I finally saw her again, it was in the 9th grade, and she was dating a friend of mine. So I didn't ask her out. I left it alone, and then went back to California, came back to Alaska in the 11th grade, and I saw her again, and I was going to ask her out, but she threw a party at their house, and I was going to ask her out. And what ended up happening is I ended up getting into a fight at her party, and the guy that I was beating up apparently what I found out was her favorite cousin.
Oh my gosh! Oh goodness!
And so I didn't talk to her for a long time. When I finally reconnected with her a couple of years ago, she was dating someone, and she went back and forth with talking to me, but it ended up not going my way.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. My goodness. Now there might be a book right there. As I'm sitting here listening to this, I'm like, you know what? That would probably make for a story, wouldn't it? I'm just throwing that out there. I'm saying that's where some of the best stories do come from. That's for sure. My goodness gracious. So there you go. So I guess this means that we have a talented and attractive author who's single, ladies. So if anybody is listening in and you live in California, I'm pretty sure Jonathan might entertain offers, I'm guessing, or are you too busy for that?
Nah, it's not that I'm too busy. I'm what's the phrase? I'm specific now.
Choosy, picky.
I want.
Yes.
I'm not turning them down, but I'm looking for someone that's not like everybody else.
Right. That makes sense. Completely understandable.
Pretty much, if somebody can steal my heart, they have it. But if I'm not out looking. But if someone does steal my heart, then they got it.
I gotcha. That kind of goes without saying. Now, before we get into the book, I'm curious, and you've already mentioned the Harry Potter angle, but were you always, first, before I ask this question, let's go back to the Gatsby thing, because, of course, the first time that Rachel sent me your information, I obviously noticed the last name, the Gatsby connection here. So please explain to your listening audience the whole reason behind picking that pen name, meaning your last name being Jonathan Gatsby, obviously, after the great Gatsby, I'm presuming. So tell the story about that and tell folks why you feel so influenced or inspired enough to where you would pen under the name Jonathan Gatsby.
Well, at the time that I picked the name, I was writing my book World War III, and Gatsby was famous for World War II, and Gatsby was also was famous for chasing after his love, and at that time I was still after that girl, and so that.
Oh my goodness! Really?
So that movie just really, kind of like, motivation. Yeah, I can do this. I can do it. And so I picked the name pretty much because he's a person also that came from a poor background, and this is the main reason. He came from a poor background, but despite coming from a poor background, he found ways to make it, and advance into the high life, into the rich life.
Right, I gotcha. Wow.
So he made it onto the next level.
Oh, he definitely did. And, of course, I'm guessing, because I, of course, come from a very poor background myself, I think it gives us a lead into looking and appreciating everything you have so much more, meaning that people that come from privilege and certain positions automatically take it for granted. And I think for some of us, it's a lot easier to appreciate things and be able to accept the reality and say, hey, I may not have this much, but I'm building on this, and look where you've gone. And obviously you're a classic example of that. It goes without saying. The book that you've written would lead me to believe that you are by nature a fantasy/science fiction sort of fellow. So is that your favorite genre as it relates to books? Meaning if we were sitting at home with Jonathan and watched what he reads, what would we see? Would we be shocked to see that you don't get into fantasy all the time? What are your favorite reads?
You see a variety of books. You see Harry Potter. you'll see Percy Jackson. You'll see a lot of historical fiction books. I love historical fiction. You see stuff like Johnny. My favorite book of all time is Johnny Tremaine. And then follow behind it. You see Time Enough for Drums. You'll see Sign of the Beaver. You'll see one of my second favorite book is A Witch of Blackbird Pond. And I got a few teachers got me into reading those in the 5th grade. It was Miss Norton from Norder Elementary and Miss Dolan from Hunter Elementary. They got me into reading those books, and I just never, I went through that little period I told you afterward where I started getting in trouble, but during that period, they had got me reading for a while.
I gotcha. You bet. Well, and have you seen the actual film? I just watched Leonardo DiCaprio play The Great Gatsby not so long ago. It's an excellent film. I mean, really, it's very, very well done. I was like, that's absolutely awesome. And I love the fact that I had read an interview that was done with you, and you had said how everything about you had to change to discover your eventual true destiny, which is such an interesting and true statement. I'm going through that right now. You kind of have to change everything and become a completely different person to be the person you're meant to be. And that's so true in this particular case. So kudos to you on making that realization, earlier in life instead of later. Some of us, it takes forever and a day to figure out what the hell we're doing. So I give you a lot of credit for recognizing this. And, of course, one of the interesting things that I was reading about you was that you were talking about, you wrote your book and you're like, I want to make sure to cast Catherine Zeta-Jones and Scarlett Johansson. How funny is that? I was like, you were point specific about, I want this and I want this. So I got to ask, why those two? Because I'm familiar with both of their work. They're not, my top 5 list, but I'm familiar with them. So why those guys? Why those females in particular?
I've had a crush on them. Had a crush on them for a long time.
Oh, my God. Listen to that. Really?
I've had a crush on Scarlett Johansson since she did that movie 8-Legged Freaks.
Oh, my God. Really? I don't even think I've even heard of a movie like 8-Legged Freaks. Yeah, I'll have to go check that one out. Sounds like it's a best-selling one there. I've never heard of that. So I'm like, okay. I just had to ask it. And that's cool that you have this type-specific, sort of thing. Because I've cast my movie now, and I'm still asking myself, who would I want to do this? And, of course, George Clooney always comes to mind, but that's, a little bit different caliber there. But that's awesome. So, Catherine Zeta-Jones, I'm sure you guys are listening to us right now, and Scarlett Johansson. So get a hold of Jonathan because he's got this great production for you. Just throwing that out there under the hopes that maybe, just maybe, they're listening in. So let's talk about this wonderful book. It was released on June 1st. It's called The Beasts and the Four Demigods. So to those that are listening in that have no concept or clue about your book, number one, I want to start off by having you tell everybody, when did you get inspired to write it? Was there a particular motivation involved with it? And then talk about the process a little bit of putting it together from start to finish. How long did it take? Did you burn it once? I mean, how many writer's blocks did you go through? Or was it a fairly easy or simplistic process for you?
Well, it started out Hercules versus Zeus. I was going to write a book. I thought I had a cool idea. I wrote an outline. Then I was at Delta College at that point, and I wrote the outline. It was Hercules versus Zeus. And I was ready for it. But then as I started, because as I was in church, I started doing a lot of studying. And as I was studying stuff, I started noticing a lot of stuff. And I was also in the college classes. I was taking, different world religions, and I was taking, mythological classes and all kind of stuff like that. And so when I was doing that in those studies, I started noticing that everything connects. And so I started to like, well, wait a minute, this connects here, this connects here. Like, for instance, in Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, it says that Abaddon, the angel of the bottomless pit, he's known in Greece as Apollyon. And so I said, that's pretty close to the name Apollo. And so I started researching Apollo, and he goes by different names as well. He goes by Apollon and a bunch of other names. And so I started studying the definitions of them. And Apollo, everybody knows him for music, and they know him for being the sun god. But what a lot of people don't know is that he's also known as a destroyer, and he's also known for bringing the plagues, which is the same thing that Abaddon is known for in the Bible.
Right.
And so I said, okay, so because when the fifth trumpet sounds in the Bible, a bad brings a plague out of the bottomless pit. And and so I said, wait a minute, that connects. And then in Job, you see the name Leviathan, which you also find in Greek mythology and inside of Norse religion. You'll see the name Orion, the mighty hunter. And I said, okay. So I caught that, and I said, well, let's connect there too. And then there's a verse in Colossians, it's chapter 2, and I want to say verse. I'm not gonna get the verse. I want to say 14. It's got a 4 in it, so 14 or 44 is one of them. But it says, "Be not deceived and taken away." And I'm not saying it exactly right, but it says, "Be not deceived in the worship of angels." And so I said, and then there's another verse in the Bible that says, "You worship angels and you know it not." And so I said, the Bible's saying there's worship of angels. And then so I looked in Genesis chapter 6, and I started seeing stuff like it says that when the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were fair, they began taking wives to them. It says in those days there were giants. It says and the children of the women that were doing stuff with the angels. It said they would be mighty men that would always be known, so that they would forever be known. And so I said, sounds like Hercules, Achilles, stuff names people are still mentioning. And so I said, let me switch this from Hercules versus Zeus to the fallen angels, and to Zeus being the fallen angel with Lucifer in there, and I combined them all. So now it's switched to now it's the fallen angels that fought against God. So you got Zeus in there, you got Thor in there. Thor comes in more in the second book, and Odin. I bring in Tahiti in the second book, one of the Hawaiian gods. And they're all the fallen angels, and they're finally coming back together because they're getting ready to face a lake of fire, because God sees them cast inside of a lake of fire. And so Lucifer bargains to turn a deal with God. He says, if we can win one tournament out of seven, then we can escape the lake of fire. And so God agrees. And so what's happening is in the book, 4 demigods that don't know they're demigods, they're forced to compete in the tournament. And I give this one surprise away because a lot of people get excited when they hear this. When you start off reading the book, it starts off in the old times. You'll see some familiar names like Hercules and stuff like that. So you see Hercules and you see some other demigods, and you'll think that's where the book is going. But then all of a sudden you'll get to the page, and the teacher will say, "Okay, class, close the books," because what's happening is the whole first part is actually a book that the modern demigods are reading inside of the class when they're studying mythological books. Okay. And so so then it goes into the modern area. 4 demigods that don't know they're demigods. They're inside of a class studying inside of school, and so they find other demigods, and so they're forced to compete in a tournament on God's side. And Lucifer and Zeus and them, they're picking different stuff for each tournament.
That sounds so cool and intense. Well, first of all, I'm a Thor fan. Like the real Thor. Like I would kiss the ground that Thor walked on. So I'm like, first of all, it's totally exciting to me that that's happening. I love the concept of, and we've all read it, some version of course, fallen angels, etc. And obviously it's gone from the Bible onward and all the various different stories, which is an awesome concept. Now, clearly, it's been about a month since the book has come out. Did you have an actual launch, etc., or is that something that's in the works, or how did it go once it officially came out?
I didn't have a launch. Like I said, I'm still poor. I'm trying. As a matter of fact, I'm out every day when I'm not working. I'm trying to find. I go out on the road and I look for investors. I'm trying to find an investor to invest not only in a book tour but also to pay Rachel there, so I can't even afford to pay her anymore because my job's been cutting my hours.
Gotcha. No, I understand. You're a writer.
Yeah.
That's what we say on my show all the time. I'm like, you're willing to take that chance, and obviously you write because you love to write, not because, of course, you're going to get rich by it. So here's a hint, folks. I hugely advocate dreaming 9,000 times a year, and don't give up that dream, even if that means you're going to be broke. If you do what you love, you're not really working. I say this all the time to people. It shouldn't discourage you. Money should never be the factor there as far as that goes. Now, I had heard wind that there is a possible movie in the works, or talk of doing a movie. Is that something that you even thought about or want to entertain, or?
Yeah, we had talked about it, and this is where it's a rock and a hard place for me, because of course, and you just said it can't be about money, so. But of course, there would have been money involved. It just, I see a really big picture, like the Marvel movies, DC, not DC. I'm taking that out what I said. I think DC can make good movies. I just think they haven't got the grasp like Marvel has it right now. Because Marvel has like the perfect sequence of action, dialogue, plot and all that. Right now, DC is just, it's either just action, or it's boring all the way up to one action scene. And so I think DC can pull it off, though. I think they can. But, everybody's still waiting to see it. But Marvel, like with the Avengers, I'm looking for something like that. That's what I'm hoping to get. Like I said, beggars can't be choosers. So I have to take anything. I'm just nervous that because the person they want to make it into a cartoon, so I was just nervous like how many, or they said animation, so I got to understand what they meant. But
sure.
Yeah, but if it's a cartoon, I can't imagine too many people coming to watch. As big of a crowd coming to watch it.
Sure. No, that makes sense. I totally get what you're saying. And, of course, you definitely do not want to sell your idea away. I think that's where creatives get frustrated, because in order to make money or in order to do certain things, you have to give up the whole creative entity and the aspect that you created and turn it into somebody else's vision. And I caution people to not do that all the time. So, there's plenty of, and I do this for a living because I'm in film, so I know what that's like, and I see people do this all the time. So don't give up your vision. You have an amazing concept here that would do very well, as you know, visually even on a screen. That whole idea right there is huge as far as putting something like that on a big screen. That's a great idea, and I wholly advocate that. Now, we want to talk on the flip side of the fence. You have this entity called Gatsby and Knoll Publishing, which you've created. You're obviously the founder of this. So were you sparked with the idea of starting a publishing company because you write yourself, or did you notice something in the industry, or what was the mitigating factor behind making a publishing company happen?
I signed with a publisher in 2016. That was called a Revival. I won't say their names. I don't know if you can get sued for that or not. But
okay, that's
fine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it wasn't a great experience for me. They didn't want to contact. I tried to call them a few times when they were editing the book, see if they had any questions, and they didn't want to answer anything. The owner actually wrote me and said, "Hey, don't bother us. We'll let you know when it's done." And so when the book got done and got put out, when I read it, they didn't edit it. They missed everything. There were so many mistakes in the book, I couldn't believe it. And so I said, okay, that's not cool. We got to pull it back. And it just a lot of stuff, It just, no communication. They were taking most of the money. They offered me, I think I was getting 40%. But it also was it's hard to explain this, but it just wasn't a good experience.
No, I get you. I understand.
And then I know most authors only get 10% to 15% on a traditional contract.
Right.
And
right.
I don't, as an author, I don't think that's fair. And as a publisher, so what I decided to do, I decided to research everything. Because I see authors all the time, and I was trying to first to debate whether to go independent or to start a publishing company.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was studying, because I see authors all the time come up with ideas of, well, if we do this, we can sell so many books. If we do this, we can sell so many books. Now, in the short term, yes. In the short term, yes, that stuff can work. But in the long term, it doesn't work as well. because you're not gonna make as much money on books in the long term. Because it's gonna I know someone who was making $700 a month, doing little short stuff, but then it came to an end after 7 months.
Okay.
And so you want to give your book more, like, because that's almost like a lot of authors are giving away their books free or doing 99 cents, and which is fine. Anyone can do what they want to do, their choice. It's just I would like to make a living off of writing. I love writing, and so I had to do the research, and in the long run, it just wasn't a good idea to go independent for me. But I also noticed the industry is locked down. So the bookstores like Barnes and Nobles, they won't take the book unless you're going through a wholesaler and a retailer.
Right.
And it has to be 55% that they're getting, and it has to be returnable if something happens to it. And then the wholesaler and retailer, they won't deal so much with independent authors. They deal with publishing companies.
Sure.
And then publishing companies don't like to deal with authors. They like to deal with literary agents. So the industry is on lockdown. And then with each middle person, you have to pay each one. So like say you go to Bloomsbury or some other random Penguin House. Say you go there and they're giving you 10%, right? You're getting 10% of what you make on the book. The literary agent is getting 15%. Now, how does that work? You're the one that wrote the book, and they're getting more than you are.
Well, right. I agree with you, definitely.
Yeah.
And if you're the person putting all the work in, then you're the person who should be getting the biggest payout, and obviously your wishes clearly being followed. And I think that's become part of an industry where it's just kind of like people are just, it's a me generation, so it makes it difficult. Yeah. So then you come along, you decide, okay, so what's really cool, I think, folks, and we're getting into this now, the 4 different things, of course, that your publishing company offers that's different. First of all, like you were talking about, a 50-50 split between yourself and the particular author, so that this way you're getting half, they're getting half, which is a nice size percentage. To those of you that may not know this in the industry standard. As it relates to, talk a bit about accepting unsolicited manuscripts, because we all know, anybody who's worked in publishing before, that seems to be the thing. Meaning, is there any risk for you, do you feel, by taking unsolicited manuscripts? Because there's obviously a mentality behind using a literary agent. So talk a bit about that. Was there any reservation for making that choice to say, yep, you don't have to be represented, just give me what you got?
Yeah, because what most people don't realize is, once again, the wholesaler takes 55% if you want your book to be in their warehouse. That's like S. Ingram, and Baker and Taylor and stuff like that. So when they offer you 10%, you're not getting 10% of the 100% that you get from the book. You're getting 10% of the $2 to $3 that the publishing company gets.
Gotcha.
And so you're making 30 cents to 40 cents per book, and that's on a traditional contract. Some of these other publishers, what they'll do, they'll offer 80%, and they'll offer all kind of stuff. And you wonder how they do it. And what's happening is they're not planning on promoting the book. All they got to do is pay for the publishing. They might pay in-house, $100, $200 for the cover art, stuff like that. And then they're charging, because like I'll tell you straight up, I have editors who are editing for me. They're editing whole novels for $100. They're doing it for cheap because they love doing it.
Gotcha.
And I have a webmaster who did our webpage for free because she loves doing that stuff. And so we're working cheap right now. But they're charging people $2,000 to $3,000 to publish their book. And all they're doing is just publishing it. And they're doing the cover art, stuff like that, and then they're not paying that much for it. So they're making about a good $2,000 extra from what they're charging the authors. And then what they do is, okay, we put it through Lightning Source, we put it through Ingram, we put it through somebody, we put it out, and then the book is consistent. There's no media for it. There's nothing for it, and so it just sits there.
Right.
And so they don't mind giving you 80% because they already got paid from you up front because they made you pay for everything.
So obviously, of course.
The bet is your book's not going to sell too much.
Well, and especially if you're not having somebody who's doing the PR and the marketing and knows the industry and is able to get it out there, which, of course, who better to support other authors than an author himself, clearly, because clearly you're supporting them and you already know what the industry is like and you've already done a product as far as that goes. In fact, we want to talk about that a little bit because authors that come on my show, I've said this before, and especially when they're new, they may not understand. So just share your stance on how important, as far as yourself goes, all that marketing that you do for your book. Explain the importance of knowing how to effectively market your product so as to get an audience and to get people to respond and purchase your book.
I'm going to say it like this. This from studying. You can't market your book. You can put it out there, and see if you give it away for free. If you give it away for free, most of the time, it's the people that like getting it for free. And so when you find, okay, I'm gonna charge you $20 for this book, $30 for this book, they're not gonna pay it because they don't want to pay for it.
Sure.
They're looking for another free book. A lot of marketing needs to be left to the people that know how to do it. The publicists and the agents and stuff like that. That's their field. And like, say you want to get on Oprah or say your show or another show. Most of the time, you might write a comment on their Facebook page. You might write something here. You might go try to meet them, and you'll get ignored. And it's because they already have a process set. You'll see on a lot of, even on publishing sites, you see, okay, we don't accept unsolicited stuff. That's the same thing with movies. I went to go submit my book with Marvel. I was going to submit it there, and it said, straight out, we don't accept unsolicited material. So your means are limited as far on how far you can go. So by not getting a publicist and an agent, you're putting a cap on how high you can fly in the sky. You're keeping yourself down on ground level. So when you could be put it like this, like say J.K. Rowling, if Bloomsbury and stuff never had actually publicized her book, if she had never got a publicist, nobody would have known about her book past London, especially since they didn't have Facebook back then. But
Gotcha.
People see posts. People see posts. You pay for this stuff. Like Facebook, a lot of the likes that you'll get on your post are actually fake. Are fake profiles. I've paid for plenty of posts. And if you ever look at the people that are actually liking it, go on their pages, it'd always be somebody with just only one or two pictures with no posts on their page, nothing. You're going to tell me that a person that never posts on Facebook, that the majority that never posts on Facebook, only came on to just to like my post? They don't follow any page. They don't. So it's a lot of, I look at stuff like that. I pay close attention. It's fake likes. But it's something, some people would do. I did it myself with the music. Okay, fine, it's fake likes. Oh, well, I'll build it up. I had 7,000 likes on the song Getting to Roxanne on the Facebook page. But, it wasn't 7,000 buys. And
that's
so,
just amazing. It blows my mind.
Yeah.
That blows my mind because I'm like, seriously, folks, I've said this before, like you go on Instagram and then everybody's like, well, I have this client and they have like 600,000, followers on Instagram. And I'm like, A, you probably pay for them because now we live in a world where you can pay for social media. And number two, I'm like, seriously? I mean, they just don't even look like they fit the profile. You know what I mean? Like if it was a celebrity, you'd be like, yeah, I totally get it. But you know what I mean? It's kind of like ridiculous.
I could take a picture of my toe or my toenail and put it on there, and I'll pay $20 for it to see 8,700 people, and I guarantee you I'll get 800, 900 likes.
Oh my God! Really?
Because it's gonna be fake profiles. Because what happens is they want you to keep paying for more advertising.
That is insane.
Everything's about money now.
And
I wish it wasn't. It's a tough world. And like I said, I know my book's gonna be stuck for a little bit. I'm working my butt off to pay for stuff, I got to pay Rachel. I had to stop that because I couldn't. Like I said, with my job, found out about stuff about what I was trying to do with the book and stuff like that. They cut my hours a little. They cut my hours a little bit, and then they told me, they said, hey, when you request time off, for stuff like like I say, I can work every day of a week except Saturday because I have to do book signings on Saturdays. They said when you do that, you get penalized and stuff like that. Too much, you just won't be on the schedule. And so if I want to go on a book signing tour, I can't without losing my job. So I'd have to have an investor that believed in my book and that believed in the chances that it had to pay for Rachel Dares. I want to go through her, Rachel Dares, to be my publicist, and to maybe just pay for I live on the street. I don't care about that. Just put some money in my daughter's pocket so she can do something.
Sure. Oh, sure. I see exactly what you're talking about. And that's all the more reason why it's so impressive that you're building this platform where you're talking about the 50-50 split, taking people on that are unsolicited, in addition to which offering fair and impartial judgment as it relates to screening things. And, of course, you've set up a traditional contract. Now, I'm not sure that everybody understands a traditional contract in publishing. So can you speak a little bit about what exactly a traditional contract offers a typical writer?
That means I pay for everything out of my pocket.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's another good positive push point as it relates to that. I mean, all these positive reasons to align people to align themselves with what you're doing, in addition to which it's a dreamer. You're literally a dreamer and a do-gooder by everything that you're doing. How much more impressive can you get than that? I mean, most people in their lifetime don't even do half of that. That's pretty impressive. I'm not sure that people tell you often you should be proud of yourself, but you should be. You've come a tremendously far, long way with what you've had to work with. Now, as far as back to your book, I don't want to forget about that. It's $30, which includes the shipping. Now, I know that they're available online off of the website to get, but have you started putting your book in other places, meaning publicly or other ways to be able to find the book outside of ordering off the website?
Well, yeah, they're all over the internet. You can buy them on Google. I'm sure on Google Play, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles, pretty much any site that sells books.
Wow. You're literally all over the map, which is awesome, actually. Now, if I were to ask you if you have set goals for the next year as it relates to your book, your business, etc., where do you want to find yourself within the next year?
Well, I would like to have a movie deal for book one. I'm releasing book 2 in January. It's already. I'm trying to finish it up right now. So I got some twists at the end. What I want to do, I want to lead into the third book at the end of this book, and so I'm writing the end of it, and I'm leading. I wanted to end it because I'm already getting close to past 300 pages, but it looks like it's probably going to end up being 350 to 380 pages long.
I gotcha.
But,
no, I totally understand. And it's funny how that starts out being, well, I'm only going to do this much, and then it also envelops into other things. If somebody's listening who happens to come from the same set of circumstances you did and are kind of sitting in the same place you are right now, what's the most sound or solid advice you would offer to them?
To be honest, first I would say you can't give up. Life is hard. Especially if you have nothing, because everything costs money. To do this, it costs money. To get noticed, it costs money. Even to meet people that can get you in a position to do something, it costs money. But you can't give up. You got to keep trying. I'm going to say trusting God too. I know not everyone believes in God, but for those that do, I'm not gonna. I don't force religion on nobody. Everyone has the right to believe if they want to believe. I believe in God, but everyone has the right to believe they want to believe. But you just can't. I hate to say it, but Joe Dirt probably has the best saying. You got to keep on keeping on. Life's a garden. You got to dig it. The best saying came from the movie Joe Dirt. You got to keep trying. You can't stop. I've been up. I used to box professionally too until I got divorced. I'm thinking about taking another fight, but just to get a little extra money. But you got to find ways to to make your dreams come true. I can't say guaranteed anything because I'm still trying to make mine come true. Everything's in place, but there's still a few steps I got to take. That money part's still holding me back. But
of course, I think it holds all of us back, doesn't it?
Yeah. But it's out there somewhere. I just got to find it.
Exactly. And sometimes that can take some time. And, of course, you said it right there. I think people give up their expectancy on their careers or their passions. They assume that if they haven't made it by a certain time, it's not going to happen, or they don't have enough, so they have to give up on this or this. And I think sometimes they just give up so quickly. And, unfortunately, that kind of goes without saying. So, yeah. Now, a couple quick things before we wrap up the show. I wanted to mention to you, in case you didn't know, about 2 hours after we get done here, this becomes an archived episode. So then what will happen is it'll go out to YouTube, so it'll be on my YouTube channel. It'll be archived here, so anybody can go back on Blog Talk Radio and listen to it anytime that they want to. So it'll be around like forever and ever and ever. As far as that goes. Now, before I read off all the various ways that people can find you, I wanted to keep you in the loop on this, and this is news that no one's heard yet. At the beginning of the hour when I started talking about my film festival, it's going to be happening this year, and it's always in New York City because I find, I know you're in California, but I always find that you can either be a California person or a New York person or not both. I tend to run to New York City as often as I can because I've been to California, and I don't know about you, but there's some scary people where you live. I mean, I know you're not right in L.A., but I'm like, people scare me in California. They do. I mean, it's scary, depending on what part of the state that you're in. So, yeah, I kind of have to get dragged to California. In fact, I've known Rachel for a while now, but I just met Rachel on my last trip because I barely ever get there. So I was like, oh, my God, and she's such a lovely being. She is really a fabulous phenomenal person. And so I don't get there that often. Now, ironically, just the other day, I was talking to a property, and hopefully I'll solidify this today. And if they say yes, there's a good likelihood that I would do another film festival this year in California. So if I do that, I invite you to come because I know that you're trying to find the right people to work with, and I know filmmakers galore everywhere, and I'm certain that someone will be able to help you get integrated and get your dream come true because I think you are 100% point on about holding out to find the right person. And so in venues like this, it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'll give you a press pass and you can go the whole time. It's free. So literally, it can't beat free. So I would love it if you would be my guest there. That would be absolutely wonderful. Definitely, without a doubt. And make no mistake, I would love to have you back anytime you want. You can come back on my show anytime. You're an absolutely lovely being, and I certainly I gravitate to Rachel's clients because they're always the best. And you have a heart, and you're a dreamer, and I can't possibly be literally more impressed with someone with those qualities. So I'm going to read off all these different things. You let me know if I've missed anything. The gentleman we've been talking to today is Jonathan Gatsby. The website is GatsbyPublishingNoelBooks.com. That's the whole entire thing. It's www.GatsbyPublishingNoelBooks.com. He has a Twitter handle, which is @GatsbyNoelPub, and that's Gatsby, Gatsby, Noel, Noel, and then PUB. The Facebook page is Gatsby Noel Publishing. He is on Pinterest, Google+, Amazon, and, of course, obviously, I'm guessing that you also have a Instagram because I don't have that listed, or do you not? I'm sorry.
I do. I don't get on social media that much anymore. I put a little post up every now and then, and I hate Twitter.
Okay.
But, yeah.
I kind of figured as much. I don't like Twitter myself either. It seems like everybody's kind of instigated to or running over to Instagram, so it's kind of one of those things. So I'm like, okay, fine. So we won't go ahead and list that one as far as that goes. But, I mean, you've got the website. That's the focal point. And, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I do have.
And also,
I do have Instagram.
Are you currently, I don't want to forget to ask the obvious question, which is if you're an author listening today and they're interested in soliciting you to be their publisher, are you currently taking submissions at this point?
I would say if you do submit it, I'm not going to turn anything down, but give it some time. Okay. Let me earn the money. Yeah.
Gotcha. That makes perfect sense.
I did the part as far as getting the publishing license. Yeah, and I'm with Ingram and other stuff. So
Sure.
Time is all I need, and it'll get done correctly.
Perfect. And then, of course, the very last question, which is, if somebody is listening today and they're inspired and they want to get a chance or opportunity to meet you, how would they do that? Do you have an upcoming event or somewhere where you'll be out, or someplace where they can actually see you, meet you, talk to you?
I have a book signing in Modesto, California, this Saturday coming up, and the one in Las Vegas, I'm supposed to go there next Saturday on the 14th, but as I told you, my job had pulled on my hours. My last check was $100. That's how far they pulled back my hours, and I was getting paid $400 a week.
Wow.
So I might not be able to afford the trip to Las Vegas. So I was supposed to be on the 14th. So we'll see what happens.
Okay, so the California, I was just going to say the California one will still be happening then.
Yeah. I might
Wonderful.
make Vegas. I might walk it. I don't know. I'm gonna try to get there.
Lovely. Wonderful. Well, Jonathan, it's been a pleasure. I absolutely have enjoyed this interview. I will stay in touch, let you know about the festival this week and accommodate your schedule. I would love to meet you and shake your hand. I think you've done some just absolutely inspiring, impressive things. So be very proud of yourself. You've been a wonderful guest, and I appreciate you giving me your time.
Thank you. Can I say one thing?
Oh, anytime. Sure.
Whatever you guys do, if you guys go for a publicist, I'm gonna say this: go for Rachel Dares. I haven't been able to pay her for a month, and she's still contacting me and said, "Hey, you got this interview today. Hey, you got this interview the month prior."
Sure.
So she's still, even though she hasn't gotten paid in the last month, 2 months, she still kept to her commitment, and that's not something you'll find very often.
Oh, you ain't lying
Yeah,
there. She is not a dime a dozen, that's for sure. She is extraordinary, and I will make sure to toot her praises as I do every show at the end of this show. And I appreciate you saying that, and wonderful words, actually. Good luck to you with the book, and good luck with the event, and I hope to get a chance to meet you next time I'm in Cali.
I hope to meet you too.
All right, dear. You have a great day. Good luck to you.
Okay, and you can contact me anytime soon.
I will do that, my dear. Thanks, Jonathan. I'll be in touch.
All right, thank you.
All right, bye-bye. Tell me that he was absolutely phenomenal. That is just awesome, and it actually made my day. I'm telling you, folks, this whole show thing is like my whole day today. So on the flip side of the fence, we're going to switch over gears, and we're going to talk to our funny man now. We'll have a comedian on the second half of the show, which is kind of cool. Hopefully this will make my day even more wonderful. I'm just so inspired, I have to say. I always am so grateful to have individuals come on this show that have literally built themselves up, brought themselves to a better place, and done good things and inspired other people. And he is definitely going to be a success story one day. Obviously, he's going by leaps and bounds. He's doing right by other people, and he's aligning himself with the right people. So kudos. Rachel, that was an absolutely wonderful, great gift. Thank you so much for bringing him on. Now, let's get to our second guest. He's very graciously waiting. EB for real, or in other words, Eric Brown. Let's get to talking to him and find out his backstory. Eric, hi.
This is EB for real coming to you live from San Diego. How you doing?
I am wondering if it is as hot in San Diego as it's been here in Wisconsin. Oh, my God.
Yeah, they said it's going to be one of the hottest days out here today. They out there right now cooking bacon on the sidewalk, I think.
Oh, my God. How do you guys manage? I mean, like, seriously, does the heat, are you guys, like, literally, some of us are isolated in our air conditioning. It's, like, terrible. I mean, I thought I was going to die the other day. How do you handle all of that? Or are you just used to it because you've been there forever?
Well, this is actually today is supposed to be our hottest day in the summer months. So, we kind of just go with it. A lot of people like to sit under their air conditioners. I'm not one of those kind of people that like to be in a 60-degree room, all day long. So I'm cool
Sure.
with it,
I gotcha. Very, very cool. Awesome. Well, I'm glad that you took the time, obviously, even though it is hotter than all get out, and you're actually here on the show. I really, really appreciate it. I have researched you, and I've found some interesting things, so I've got some interesting questions. First of all, I'm curious. When I first looked at you, the first thing I thought of was not comedian. Ironically, it was writer. So I know obviously you write your own material, but I'm just curious about why you haven't ever done a book or like a publication of any kind, or have you and I just don't know it?
You know, I did start a book a couple of years ago. I did start a book, and it was just kind of like the ins and outs of the comedy scene. But, you know, once I got into it, you know, I didn't want to sound jaded. And there's a lot of, you know, ins and outs in the industry and, you know, from my own personal experiences. And I may get around to finishing it, but it was very, very insightful when I let my wife read it. She says, wow, you know, she goes to the shows with me, but she doesn't know or has never experienced some of the things I've experienced. And so when you actually put that in a writing context and people read it and they're like, wow, I didn't know that. I just thought you got booked for a show and you showed up and you did your set and, you know, that was it. But there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes.
Oh, of course, I'm sure. And plus, writing a book, as we were just talking about in the first segment here, it's one of those things that's different. Meaning, like I assume when you go up and stand up and do comedy, you get an immediate reaction. Whereas when you're writing a book, obviously you've got to wait and people have to buy it and then they have to read it and then you find out what's actually about it. So it's kind of a different way of expression, clearly. But from what I've seen of you, you have no issue with expressing yourself in a comedic way. So I was curious if you could express yourself in other ways. So do you think you'll ever finish and put it all together and publish it and go do a big tour so you could do like comedy and like literally promote your book and do a comedy set all at the same time? I thought, how cool is that? Look at me, I'm planning your life like right now.
You know, I appreciate that. You know, like I said, I started this about 2 summers ago, and I flipped through the pages and I read it, and I'm like, wow, that was very insightful. Because, you know, they always ask me what would I tell a new up-and-coming comedian. And one of the first things I would always tell somebody is find something interesting to talk about. And if you can prepare a minute and a half, 3-minute set, and just talk about it. You know, a piece of string can be interesting and funny if you put it into the right, you know, humorous gene. Mm-hmm. So, you know, find something that you can talk about. And, you know, one of the other interviewers asked me before, do you ever just go up there and improv? I says, I myself never go up there without, you know, a rehearsed, memorized set. I'm never going to go up there on stage without knowing what I'm going to say from start to finish.
That's different. Very different, in fact. I was just talking to somebody about improv the other day. And so I guess since you brought this up, tell your audience a little bit about why you feel it's best to be prepped and polished before you actually walk onto a performance stage. How does that make it a better situation for you and for your audience, for that matter?
Well, you know what? I don't know if you've read, you know, social media and know what's going on, but see, you never want to leave yourself open for heckling in the audience. So, you know, and there's a part of comedy that people do crowd work. I never like to ask an audience a question and let them give me feedback because I'm the one on stage with the microphone. People came to see me. So it's not like it's not a game show. You know, I'm not yelling out, you know, questions and waiting for an audience to respond to me. I'm up there to perform. And so I think when you go up there and try to improv and don't have a rehearsed set and try to do crowd work, you're going to leave yourself open for criticism, heckling, and a backlash. So I always go up there with my 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever I'm doing, I know from start to finish what I'm going to be doing and saying. And I think it works in our favor to have your set polished and rehearsed.
And that makes perfect sense, of course. And I could see it from both sides of the fence because I've seen improv, and I have an appreciation for that, yet I also see where you have someone who's ultra-prepared. So I can see it on both sides of the spectrum, of course. Now, I realize that in doing my research, you have mentioned, of course, that there are some veteran comedians that have inspired you or have left a lasting impression. So if I were to ask you someone that at some point, let's say, is there a famous comedian you'd ever want to critique, or I should say mold yourself into, or you like the style of, who might that number one person be for you in the comedic world? Could be dead or alive, either or.
I think early on in interviews, I always look back on Red Fox, Rodney Dangerfield, Robin Harris. I never want to mock or emulate somebody else's style. Because there's a lot of copycats out here, and then there was this thing about stealing material and jokes. And so when I write a set, it's my original material. And, I never want to sound like anybody else.
Sure.
I listen to other comedians, but I would it's very disingenuous to try to copycat somebody else's style and or material. So in the long, I don't know, who I like Wanda Sykes. I like some more. I have a favorite because all these people that I've mentioned have their own unique style of comedic delivery.
Makes sense. I gotcha. Now, I want to talk about this as well because I often notice this in the comedic world. There seems to be this overall stigma between the comedians and, of course, the general public, which is we are almost conditioned to believe that if you're a funny man, you're literally a funny man 24/7. So even when you walk off the stage and you're at home, you're constantly rolling around with laughter, etc. And I was surprised to find that there's a whole mass of comedians that literally are just regular average people when they're at home. So where do you fall in that? Are you literally the ha-ha funny 24/7, or is there that two-side split?
It is a 50-50 with me. I like to have fun. I try to find a humorous part in everyday life and everything I do. But there are times when you have to be serious. And I remember early on performing when I went to a venue, they had no idea that I was even performing. Because when I walk into a room, I don't need to come in with balloons and being the loud, obnoxious guy. So I sit there and enjoy the show, and I watch the other performers, and then when they give me the nod that it's my time, I get up there and do my thing. And numerous times people say, I had no idea that you were even performing. And so I don't want to be always the funny guy. There's a time and a place to be a funny guy.
Sure, of course.
And just to share, yesterday I went to a funeral of a beloved friend of mine, and I spoke. And so they asked if anybody wanted to come up, and so I gave a kind of humorous moment that I shared with this friend about knowing her in high school and having copied off of some of her homework and test papers. And it was just a very funny thing, and it was, straight off the cuff, and people really thanked me for, I'm glad that you spoke last because that really brought the room up from where we were emotionally. And none of those people know that I'm a comedian because that's not something that I share with kind of a general public, if you understand that.
I do. I do it. And I also notice where oftentimes performers prefer that anonymity, meaning that whatever is personal to them, et cetera, that's that one part that you get to keep to yourself, you know what I mean? And then the whole rest of the world gets everything else. And I see that quite often, actually. And so here's a good question. Does anybody ever get the comedian, meaning you, get you rolling on the floor to where you're like, God, I wish I would have thought of that? Do you know what I mean? That's kind of an unexpected sort of, I love these great people, meaning somebody that's not necessarily in the professional world, but somebody that's still up and coming, you know what I mean, a fellow comedian where you're like, you know what, I really dig this guy. I think he's terrific, or somebody that just has really kind of left an imprint on you with their comedic talent.
In the short answer, no. I appreciate and respect. Okay. I appreciate and respect anybody who can get up there and control the room from 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 12 minutes. And so, if you have the wherewithal to get up there and do it, I admire that. I appreciate that. It's a lot, and it's very empowering when I get up there to perform and I'm on that stage and I hold that microphone and people are just anticipating something funny. And that's a very empowering thing for me. Like, wow, I'm really controlling the environment of this whole room.
And it's amazing that you have the ability to be able to walk into a room. And sometimes what the coolest part I think about being a performer is I would venture to guess you have the ability to not only brighten someone's day, but to really have that emotional fluctuation, meaning that somebody could walk in and you don't know what heaviness is on their heart, and then you can make an impact on that. You know what I mean? In a very, very positive way. And what's cool is that, as I understand it, humor was something that was more of a household staple for you, meaning that you grew up in an environment where you were automatically getting accustomed to that. Talk a little bit about that, because I imagine that had to be a heck of a fun way to live, where you've got that jovial sense as a child.
Yeah, I'm a little older, and so when I came up, in the 70s and stuff, we didn't have video games. So we had, board games and charades, and, we played musical bands. And one of my older brothers, we used to do this thing called basing. And it's all, playing the dozens. And so, I've said before, I've been snapping on cats since I was 12 years old. And, it's just, you look at a shirt, you look at somebody's shoes. But the thing about it was, it was never meant to be mean. It was never an insult, because we all did it. And so, walking home from school, standing in the middle of the street in a circle, and we just went around the group and snapped on each other. But it was never mean-spirited. It was always fun. And, yesterday, one of the people at the services told me, I never liked you in high school because you were always casing on people. I said, well, that's just what I do. That's just what I do.
That takes a lot of guts. Just so you know, I didn't like you. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Wow.
I felt, and it happened to be, the sister of the young lady that had passed. It's like, I never liked you in high school. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's okay.
That's too cool. Oh my God. It's a positive point, though. I mean, you went from one point to another point, which is cool.
Yes.
Well, I have another question. Now, your material has been referenced as urban snapping. And I'm like, okay, I'm not stupid. I know I'm not stupid. I want to believe I'm an intelligent woman. But I'm like, yeah, I can't say I've ever heard urban snapping. Not really sure what that means. So I, of course, have to ask you to explain to us idiots here, what the heck is that and where did that come from? What exactly is defined as urban snapping?
Well, that's kind of where we got the play in the dozens, and again, I'm going to say it for the third time, and excuse me, it was never anything mean-spirited.
Sure.
I happened to grow up in a very diverse community and neighborhood where we had every racial and ethnic culture ever. I mean, we grew up with, and so it was just fun. And so whether you were Hispanic, Caucasian, Black, we always found something fun about a Frank. Sure. If he didn't get new shoes the start of the school year, but then he was wearing last year's school shoes, but he had new shoelaces in them. And I was like, hey, those are the same shoes you had on last school year, but you got on brand new white shoelaces. That was funny. that was funny. And it was just one of those things that's urban snapping.
Gotcha. Okay. I see what you mean. Okay, because at first sight when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, because I think most people would jump automatically to, well, of course, they're choosing this because this person's African American and we're white, and so da-da-da-da-da. So that's why I'm glad you made that distinction, of course. I think it's really cool. In fact, I love when anybody describes their product in a way that's out of the box or creative and different, which this is obviously very, very different. On one side of the fence, I know that you do formal stand-up, but you've also done radio programs in the past. And so tell me a little bit about, do you prefer the live audience feedback where you've got people in front of you and you're entertaining them, or is there something diverse and different about radio that you enjoy as well?
I like the reaction of a live audience.
Okay.
Because what I say is I talk about relatable topics that people understand.
Sure.
With a radio format like we are now, unless I can segue into something, it's really not a forum to perform.
Gotcha.
You're asking a question, I'm giving you a response, and so I can kind of come off humorous, but it's not really like stand-up. I like the feedback I get from a live audience, and my material, like I said, is relatable. I don't get to pick and choose. People are like, well, do you ever change up your material depending on the venue? I says, no. I go with what I know because it's not, I call it urban snapping, but you don't have to be black to get my stuff.
Gotcha.
It's workplace, it's observational, it's statement. My material is across the board, and you don't have to be any particular race to get what I'm saying because it's relatable.
And I like the fact that it's relatable. The way that you talk about that, meaning that any audience could walk in, and we've all kind of walked in the same shoes. Doesn't matter what color we are, doesn't matter what religion we are. We can all come from that same sort of thing. That begs to ask the obvious question. Because you're so blunt and open, I was curious about if you have ever done anything risky material, meaning walked in and done the politics thing, the religion thing, have you done anything racy? Would you do something racy, or do you feel it's just best to kind of keep it at status quo?
I am always open to any opportunity to perform. I have performed political. I wasn't real comfortable, and it didn't really go over well. I have been asked to go edgy because they've kind of had me marketed as a open or a clean comedian, and so I can go edgy. But I think sometimes that stuff has been done already, and I've said it before. It's like how many MFs do you have to say? If I can't say a set without an MF at the end of it before I can get a response, I can't just deliver some material that's observational that people can relate to, and it should be funny.
Sure. I gotcha. And that makes sense, too. And I bring that up clearly because we live in a world where we obviously have some very heated politics going on with the current president going on and all that other stuff. So it wouldn't be unusual, of course, to find this obviously in many, many different comedy stand-up routines, clearly, because we're seeing this happen on a regular basis. That poses my other question. Listen to me now. I sound like the PR person that I am at times. Have you given thought, or have you given a thought to where at some point, a year from now, 2 years from now, you're going to take all that knowledge and experience and formalize your own program, meaning doing what I'm doing right now and literally either interviewing other comedians or doing a literal stand-up while you're on the radio? Is that even possible? Could you do something like that, to structure kind of that setup?
You know what? Like I said, I'm open to any opportunity I get, and I haven't closed the door on anything. I'm just trying to navigate my way through some backdoor stuff here that I have to deal with. And so on the one hand, TV interviews, radio interviews, all that is good, and being a radio interview is always, something new and interesting to get into.
Of course, definitely. And it's interesting because you get to meet, like, I can't even tell you the array of different people I've met over the years that I've done this. And, opportunities are always over one door. You could open up one door, this happens. You go meet one person, you network with the right one, this happens. You know what I'm saying? So it's a very enlightening experience. Hence, obviously, who doesn't want to network with the right people, right? It's just a matter of one door after another after another. Obviously, as you mentioned, you have a wife. So at some point you opened up the door, and I can imagine, does the wife sit there if you ever go off to work? And then, of course, she becomes I don't want to say the butt of the joke, but literally, oh, look, I found out that our love life was, during this stand-up routine he did. Does that ever happen, or is that kind of off limits?
You know what? That's off limits. For me, my home life, my personal life, I never, there was some funny, anecdotal stuff that happens here at home, and sometimes I share on the occasion where my wife comes to a show, and I'll call out to her, and people will turn around and look at her because they had no idea. But there are times I do share, but I don't, home is home. The stage is a different spot. And, when my wife comes to a show, she's an audience member, and I don't want to make her cringe or feel uncomfortable or on the ride home. She says, honey, that wasn't, because we're human.
Sure,
and
of
although,
course, that makes perfect sense.
I'm somewhat of a public figure, I don't want people to see us out and be like, ooh, did you really say that about, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, and you have to live with her, so I imagine that would be kind of rough if you, definitely. That would be a little uncomfortable, I'm guessing. But I'm like, well, I had to ask about that. Now, is she herself an entertainer or a performer, or is she in a completely different breed in terms of career-wise?
Oh, no, she's strictly corporate, strictly an executive.
Interesting. That's funny. I've been seeing the trend lately where you have entertainers or performers and they don't marry within their own realm. Because I always thought, well, who's the better person to marry is somebody who's in the same field as you. You know what I'm saying? That they get it and they understand the expectations and such. So that's interesting that you've picked outside of that, which is really cool. I'm guessing she is a fan of the creative arts, etc., and is a wonderful supporting partner. So I guess I have to ask, I always like to ask people, tell me something that they have done for you, either professionally or personally, that has really made you a better person, because I believe the foundation really always sits at home.
Well, I have the fortunate opportunity to have been with my wife since we were kids. And if you've read anything, I've always said that I told my wife I had 1 million of them. And I told her that back in 1985. Says, honey, I got 1 million of them. And she laughs and she says, how do you come up with this stuff? I said, I don't know. I mean, and when I first wrote some really stand-up material back in 2003, she was like, honey, you need to be performing. I said, I know. She was very supportive, very encouraging, has always been there for me because, my career is really advancing now. There's not an opportunity. I don't think in the last few years she's been to see me perform, but very supportive. And
nice.
She's always in my corner. Yes. And to me,
that's so
if
sweet.
I have to, like I have a show next Sunday in L.A. Well, it's a Sunday night, and if you know anything about the West Coast, it still takes me 4 hours to get to L.A. from where I am.
Oh, my God, right? My God, yes. Yes, I totally get it.
And I can't believe this traffic, over the last 6 or 7 years has gotten so bad. But it's worked. Because the point was, I'm going to work just like she goes to work, just like I have a day job. So it's not like, it's not, a venue. It's not a vacation. I'm going to work. I'm going to go. I'm going to perform, and I'm coming home that night. But she's always been supportive, and I perform for her, and I don't really bounce material off her like I used to. Early on, I used to say, hey, how does this sound? And I remember early on, she told me I need to dummy down some of my words. She said, well, that's too sophisticated. This is comedy. You don't need to be so yeah. So she was very, she said, change up this word and use this word. So every so often, I'll throw something by her.
I think I would speak for her when I'm guessing that she thinks that it's highly impressive because you had talked about how you push not only positive, but it's appropriate comedy because nowadays, I speak to some musicians about hip-hop and other genres out there where every other word is a swear word or it's inferring something that's less than positive about the opposite sex or about the opposite race or whatever have you and such. And so I'm guessing that you've become sort of a role model of sorts as it relates in terms of comedy routines I'm guessing that you have more of a positive influence on the up-and-comers by just sitting and taking in a night of comedy and watching you and see what you come up with. Does it become harder? Because I know we're living in a world that's, not exactly 100% on par in terms of positivity these days. So where do you generate some of these ginormic topics that are of positive, where do they come from? Because it's a tough world out there right now.
I wish I could take credit for what you just said. I don't know if I have that kind of impact, but, as an observational comedian, it's all based on something that I see or something that I hear or something I witnessed in the parking lot. And so, like I said, comedy is supposed to be fun. And it's like I don't want to get too deep because, it's kind of like, well, I came to enjoy a comedy show. This guy is going way over to the left, and I wanted to stay in the middle. And, because what happens, we use this word, it's called subjective, and meaning that everybody's not going to get some comedian's material.
Gotcha.
I've heard comedians like, okay, well, where is he going? And, so I try to just make it comfortable in like I said, when I come off the stage and people come up to me and say, man, I know a guy just like that at work. That was so right on. And I'm like, okay, now I know I'm doing my job. When it's material that people have experienced and I can come and write something about it, and it's like, wow, okay, everybody knows what I'm talking about. And I just want it to be fun. I just want it to be very enjoyable.
Well, I bet it sounds so exciting just listening to it. I'm like, I would want to go. I'm not even in California. I'm like, oh, my God, yeah, I want to sign up for this. Who doesn't want to escape their own reality for like 2 hours and you're being entertained? You're not having to listen to all sorts of obscenities and listening to darkness. You're able to actually just have a nice, fun, clean evening of comedy, which is so awesome to begin with. I know you had talked about the Comedy Post is June 28th from 9 to 10:30. I know that's the upcoming event. Now, is that something where you have a combination of comedians, or how does the Comedy Post set up their evenings?
Oh, that was, I believe, last Thursday we did that show.
Oh, that's right. You know what? Just ignore what I just said because I can't read, apparently. I can't even believe I just read that. I'm like, duh. Oh, my God. Of course. It's July, stupid. Okay, sorry. The host can't call herself dumb. Yeah, just pretend that we didn't just hear that. So that new upcoming event you have going on. So let's talk about that one, the one that's really happening. So tell us a little bit about how that works, meaning that when you normally do an event, is it you, an array of different comedians? Is it just you yourself, or what's the typical setup for you?
I have done one-man shows, but normally,
okay.
I book with, 6 other comedians. And so, and that's the one of the things about comedians, because you don't have the opportunity, unless I book and produce my own show, you never know what's going to happen when you get to a venue. And
right.
Unfortunately, we don't have the right to pick and choose. If I get booked to do a show, I just show up and do my time, and
right.
It's not always going to be favorable to my style of comedy.
Right.
So I just go and, I look at the lineup and see where I'm at, and, I get up there and do my thing. And it's just one of those things where you never know what's going to happen. And that's one of the variables in the comedy scene is because you just don't know. You look at the flyer, maybe some of these people I've worked with before or seen them once or twice, but you just get booked to do a show and you just do the show.
Gotcha. I understand completely. I do. Now, I also noticed that when I was on your website, what's really cool is that you have this hat and T-shirt combination for $34.50, which means you can have a hat as well as a T-shirt itself. Do you envision, I totally could see you doing, and I know it sounds silly maybe, but a personalized microphone? Does that sound ridiculous? See the things I think of?
No.
I need to not be left alone. I come up with this stuff, and I'm like, where did that come from?
Well, I'm going to tell you how that hat and T-shirt started because nobody's ever asked me. I did a fundraiser, 2 years ago, and so they were asking about giveaways. And I said, well, I don't have any marketing to give away or to sell. And so when I started back in 2012, I had this tattoo on my forearm, and I thought that would be a great thing to put on some merchandise. Mm-hmm. And so, I had it copied and silk screened, and I did a test run, and it went over very well. And then I added two of my catchphrases, which is "You feel me" and "Word," and it it has really taken off. And so when if I ever respond or support somebody's flyer on social media, I always put "Word," and that's me acknowledging, because people know that's one of my catchphrases. It's kind of silly, but it means something to me. So
that's cool.
I was gonna market. I was gonna get some sweatshirts, and I was like, well, this could really, this could really take off for me. This beanies and T-shirts thing, and if I could get it on some sweatshirts and jackets. So we'll see. Like I said, I'm always open to anything new.
That's very cool. Speaking of new and interesting, so if I were to ask you, which I just asked the other guests of ours, so for the next coming year, what are some of the accomplishments that you'd like to see happen? And more importantly, is there something on the burner that you can announce that we don't know about that is coming?
I just play it by ear and go week to week.
Really?
I take it. I've had some things happen. And I'm fortunate to get to perform when I get to perform. And I don't know, I've got a PR firm, Big Hype Marketing. They're representing me, and my publicist, Rachel Dare, she's doing the thing for me. And so, we'll see what happens. I'm just very humbled by it all, and I've moved in some different places, but for the most part, I'm just waiting for somebody to book me. Like I said, I do have a show in Van Nuys next Sunday, but it's a weird scene.
I bet it is. Comedy is different and out of the ordinary and unusual. I mean, in a good way. I mean, obviously, I think that it's probably one of the best mediums that we have for creativity, meaning it allows you to feel emotion. It allows you to feel happy. It allows you to get away from your regular routine, which is different. And I won't lie to you. I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't think I could be funny if I tried. Like, people will tell me that I'm funny, and I'm like, no, I'm not. I don't bullshit. That's what it comes down to. So I'm like, sometimes keeping it very real is very funny. You know what I mean? But I'm like, yeah, if you made me do what you do, I'm like, this is why I interview people like you. I can't do what you do. I can't even try to do what you do. It's hard. I mean, and sometimes people, no matter how hard you try, like, what do you do? Like, if you're in front of an audience, have you had it where people aren't laughing? I mean, that's got to be, like, really upsetting.
Well,
or has that never happened to you?
No, I'm not going to lie. It has happened, but because over the years I've kind of matured in comedy and want to talk about relatable material that everybody has experienced. And so I have created this brand of comedy that, hey, it's like, well, yeah, I know somebody who did that. And everybody, it's just common stuff that happens every day. And you said something about being real. Well, I'm EB for real, but sometimes people don't want me to be real. Sometimes like, well, that's
right.
a little much. You might not want to say that. And so it's like, well, it's. I'm not saying it to be malicious, but that's what's happening.
Sure.
And some people would like to hide behind the facade. And it's like, well, okay, well, if you're not gonna, if you don't want to hear it, then I'm not gonna tell you.
Right. Sure. That makes sense. It does. And it makes for an interesting career, because I imagine your day is never out of, it's not ever the typical normal routine sort of thing. Being a comedian is not routine, period. So I applaud the fact that you picked such an amazing career. You're good at what you do. You're very presentable. In fact, oh my God, I looked at your pictures and I'm like, there's nobody who would look at you and be like, I don't want to hang out with this guy. I'm not lying to you. Like, seriously, you have that look, and not everybody's like that. You know what I mean? Like, I'd be totally intimidated, like, if Jim Carrey walked in the room. I'd be like, I don't even think I could stand next to him. You know what I mean? He's just one of those guys. So it's like you don't look intimidating, which is actually a very good thing. You look like the average Joe who is anything but average, which is a very commendable quality, I have to say. So I've enjoyed this time together. This has been awesome. So now if people come to California and they've listened to you today and they're like, we totally want to see this guy, obviously, of course, remind us again where you're going to be in the near future. And then second of all, down the pike, do you anticipate going to other places, not just California, meaning Vegas or otherwise?
Yes, my next booking is at the Springbok in Van Nuys. I haven't posted any advertisement, and that's going to be July 15th, next Sunday. I am looking to get some bookings in Vegas. They can always go to my website at ebforreal.com, and I try to post upcoming gigs and stuff. But like I said, unfortunately I don't have the opportunity to get advanced bookings 60 days out. It just doesn't happen like that for me. And
Gotcha.
Sometimes I'll know a week. There's even been times I've been given a 72-hour notice that they want me to come perform. So I just have to be ready and available whenever the opportunity presents itself. But like I said, my website is always a good information network to see what's going on. ebforreal.com, Eric Brown on Facebook, Comedy
Right.
Real 47 on Instagram, and I'm just having fun, and I have a passion for it. And I always tell people this isn't something that was on my bucket list. I'm not I'm not up there just winging it. This is what I do, and I enjoy doing it, and I look any opportunity in the eye and say, let's do this,
That's awesome.
And so
I
hopefully
love
if
it.
people come see me, they'll enjoy the time that I'm able to make them laugh.
That is a wonderful thing to do with your life. I commend you on that. That's absolutely awesome. Now, before I read off all the ways to find you, of course, I want to remind you and everybody that's still listening in, and thank God for that, about 2 hours after this episode is done, it becomes archived. So anybody who didn't get to listen today can listen in tonight. Also, it goes onto my YouTube channel, so people can go ahead and check it out there as well. And hopefully somebody's listening and they're like, oh, my God, I totally want to know this guy, and I totally want to have him here and do this, that, and the other thing, because you really are that incredible. I absolutely love Rachel's guests because they're full of not only such talent, but they're very true to themselves, and I absolutely love guests like that. So it really has been a privilege to have you on. Let me read off the 3 different places, or 4 that I found actually. The website again is E and then B as in boy, the number 4, and then real.com, so ebforreal.com. On Facebook, as he mentioned, he is, of course, Eric Brown, and that's ERIC, Brown, and that's a personal page. And then, of course, the Facebook page is ebforreal8. And then the Instagram, of course, is comedy, and it's real, REAL 47. No Twitter handle?
You know what? I don't really use Twitter. I think I got messed up
Really?
on Twitter a couple of years ago. I do have a Twitter. I don't even know what it is anymore because I don't use it that frequently. It kind of
Gotcha.
messed me up.
Okay.
Maybe I need to, some of the kids know how to do it. I just never really got onto it.
Oh, my gosh, look at that. Well, ironically, I cannot come on the 15th because it's my actual birthday. So if you think of it and you're doing your routine over there in Van Nuys and you're like, it's Cindy's birthday today, you could say something very funny. I would greatly appreciate that, even though I can't come and participate in person. Know this, though. I am due to come back to California at some point, so certainly keep me in the loop, and I'll keep watching to see when you're going to be playing, or performing, I should say, and I can come and make an appearance. I definitely like to support the people that come on my show, without a doubt, and you really have been absolutely wonderful. And thanks for the flexibility and changing the show date around, of course. I didn't mean to be a pain in the butt. Sometimes it's hard, but we get our shows done. And know you're willing to come back any point in time and promote anything you like, I don't know, that book you're going to finish, or like the new venture that you're taking on that we talked about. Hint, 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 hint. I'm always big on throwing things out there. But you're always welcome to come back. You are just an absolute delight, and it was my pleasure to host you, and I hope you had a wonderful time here.
Oh, hey, no problem. Thanks for having me on. I'm just anticipating and looking forward to some great things to happen round out
Sure.
the good year of 2018. And, you know, like I said, I'm always open for new opportunities, and we'll see what happens.
Cool. That sounds terrific. Great. Keep us posted on all that, and have a wonderful weekend, and good luck next week with the gig.
Okay, well, thank you for having me on. I'll talk to you soon.
Anytime. All right, dear, you take care. Bye-bye now.
Okay, bye-bye.
Tell me that wasn't two sensational shows. I want to go ahead and reread all the various ways to find everybody. In case you folks missed my first interview, it was with the Jonathan Gatsby, and of course the website for him is www.gatsbypublishingnoelbooks.com. He is also on Amazon, Google+, Pinterest. The Facebook handle is Gatsby Noel Publishing, and it's Noel as in Noel Publishing. And then the Twitter handle is at Gatsby Noel Pub, just so you have that information. And the lovely gentleman we just got done with is Eric Brown, and that's EREC Brown. You can find him on Facebook with that name. Otherwise, the handle is EB4Real8, and that's Facebook. The website, www.eb4real.com. And the Instagram, of course, is comedy Real, REAL, and 47. And, of course, he mentioned he has that gig on July 15th in Van Nuys, California at the Springbox. So please make sure to support him, as well as, obviously, of course, Jonathan. Approach him in terms of the book, again, is called The Beast and the Four Demigods, which can be found on the website as well as on Amazon. And, of course, obviously, support his venture, meaning Gatsby and Noel Publishing, because he did obviously mention that he was still taking submissions. So just because we don't have money doesn't mean that we're not taking submissions or taking all of your creative work to do something with it. So I wholeheartedly applaud both of their efforts in helping all of us have a better life through the works of reading and comedy. Don't want to forget, obviously, the lovely and loving and wonderful Rachel Darris of Rachel Darris PR. She is now officially branched out to personal brand management, www.racheldarrispr.com. Not only is she the best personal brand management, but she's just the best person. She has a high level of intelligence, integrity. She's beautiful, and honestly, she's just an amazing human being. So obviously you've heard from both her clients, and now you're hearing from me. She's the real deal. So if you're in LA or not in LA, no matter where you are, Rachel's your girl. It's that simple. So thanks so much, Rachel, for two more wonderful clients. I'm going to let everybody go. I want to say thanks again so much to everybody for listening in today. Thank you again for your kindness and your support. I'm off. Kids are gone this weekend, so like I said, I'm in Wisconsin. I'll be out and about. I appreciate your presence with our show today, and make sure you tune in next week on the 11th and 12th for two shows. And, of course, it's my birthday week, so just tune in just because it's my birthday. You guys take care and have a great weekend.
When it's really good, it's like the first time all over again. The performing arts are crazy like that. Whether it's your first time or you just wanted to feel that way, mkearts.com can take you there. The United Performing Arts Fund invites you to experience a night to remember.